Okay. All right, so building community and finding your tribe. So why not be a lone wolf? Why not go it alone? Because some people do that, they'll say that. In fact, I know somebody who's very adamant about being alone. I asked him, what if you break your leg? How will you watch out 24/7? You gotta sleep sometime. What do you do about the people that you care for? Do you just ignore them? And if you're living alone, what are you really living for? Like, what's your purpose in life? If it's just to not die, there's no purpose in that. When you're in a clan, in a group, in a tribe, you can keep each other updated about what's going on. And it helps you to fight loneliness. You know, we're made for community. It says in Ecclesiastes 4:2 that a cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. That's talking about people together. So I don't recommend lone wolfing it. So one of the greatest things you can do when you're building community is actually meet your neighbors in person. It's just so important. Because people trust people who, after a crisis, who they knew before the crisis. They more readily trust, I should say. And one of the greatest ways you can do that, just invite people over to eat. Bev, you've done a great job in having people over to eat and enjoy it. It's just a way to build community that really works. It's easy and it's fun.
Yep.
All right, so we have places where we can find community, or would be like this group. So if you're not in regular attendance, consider coming out and attending. That way you can connect with people, meet people. Get you connected with the church. It's a great way to find community. Community classes, Cherise has been working hard to set up community classes, and we are announcing them on the United Preppers Facebook page. So watch that page for announcements, and you can find out different kinds of classes that are of people that are teaching skills in the area. You could teach a class if you know something that even if you don't think you're an expert in it, just try it. You might teach it. In fact, they say that's one way to become an expert is by teaching. There are plenty of volunteer organizations like the fire department or I don't know, a radio club, or there's all sorts of volunteer organizations that if you ask around you can find out. And then one of the best things you can do is invite your family and friends that you know. There are a lot of preppers who say, well, I'm concerned about bringing more people in because there's been more mouths to feed and all that. But I honestly would rather have that problem. I'd rather have more mouths to feed for people that I trust in order to face the hungry and the angry that are outside. So if there's ever a situation where the groceries stop coming, I want a bunch of people around me that I know and trust. And we'll figure out how to feed them. Okay, encouraging others. You want to seek to bring out the best in others. That would be identify and encourage skills, things where you know these people are really good at. You just bring it out, talk about it, encourage it. You want to do all you can to promote self-reliance so that people are not needy and dependent upon government or others or whatever. You want to volunteer when possible, when it's smart, to help others when you see that they have needs, which means we must practice skills, which means we must have something that we can use to give to them. And then you want to give them room to contribute, even if they fail. So if someone's new to this and you think you could do a better job, but you want them to grow into it, it's always good to give them room. Okay, dealing with conflict. When you have group situations, of course, the inevitability is you're going to have some kind of conflict. It's time to be patient, because crisis tends to bring out the worst and the best in all kinds of people. So crisis is where you really get tested. When you're in a situation, you got to remember what is important. Because if there is a crisis, you need to know each other, you need each other more than you need to bicker over minor things. All right, so own your own shortcomings. If you're 2% responsible for something and the other person is 98% responsible, you are 100% responsible for your 2%. That's the main thing. Then the other concern is finding difficult people, and they tend to find you, actually. If someone's lazy, a rule that you can set up for your group is that if a man will not work, he shall not eat. That's in the Bible. That is a very strong rule that basically says if you're the kind of person who's just thinking they're getting a free ride, no, you can go hungry. I would stand firm on this rule even if it's family members, because you don't want to appear to play favorites with others. So if it's a family member, they cannot eat as well. Then you have malicious people who are secretly, trying to subvert you. Trust your gut on that. Character matters. So if somebody is willing to, steal in minor things, they're probably going to steal from you at some point. They're willing to leak secrets. They might leak secrets about you. So character does matter. Do not tolerate misbehavior, even for family, and build appropriate boundaries. There's a book on boundaries that I'm going to recommend later in the presentation. That lets you set up boundaries and say, if you do this, this is what I'm going to do. And then there's consequences. We already talked about no food, but you might have a loss of privileges. You might have to do some unenjoyable chores, or at the extreme, you're no longer a member of the group. Matthew 18 in the Bible, Jesus talked about a process in which one person sins against another person, and they get removed from the church. They have to stand before the church body, and the church body says, we don't recognize you as a member. The interesting thing about that is that person is still welcome to be with them, they're just not recognized as a member. You don't have to be Christian to accept this principle, but I just think it's a really wise principle. So it's worth looking at. Find a Bible and open it up and look at that. Okay, 10 rules. These are 10 rules. I want to watch this video because it's so useful. Hold on.
Do you have printouts for all this? Or is this going to be on the group?
I think you'll have,
I'll put it on the recording on the group.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the presentation will be on the group.
Yeah, because I like to print out paperwork.
Yeah, I'll have it for you.
Awesome, thank you.
Here we go.
are you gonna watch the whole thing?
Yeah, we'll watch it. Well, I'll skip some parts of it.
In here, stay low, remain quiet, and look for anything unusual out there. None of the other
Which one, Lyle?
LP posts notify that they saw a group of people walking the perimeter of our property. Now they couldn't get a close enough look at them to see if they were armed or if they were just another group of refugees passing through the area. But they notified us just a few minutes ago that they were crossing over to that side of our property. So now our job is just to make sure that they stay out of our property and they don't come in. You got that? Hey, why do I smell alcohol on your breath? Were you drinking again last night? Hey man, we need you to be at peak of performance. We don't need you half drunk and hungover. Did you at least set the traps out there last night like you were told to? You did? Okay. Maybe you gotta cut this heavy drinking stuff out. It's dangerous to the whole. They're here, they're here. Why aren't the traps going off? Did you say why aren't they going off? Why? You didn't say it. Why? There's too many. There's too many of them. Sector border base. Sector border base. We're getting attacked. We're about to get on the ring. Hey everybody, welcome to my bug out location. And in the post-collapse scenario video that we just watched, we saw where disaster happened because a prepper group allowed a subpar member to be part of the group. So to stop this from happening to you after SHTF, or to save your prepper group a ton of headaches even before SHTF happens, we are going to go over 10 hard rules that your prepper group needs to have. Rule number 1, you need to make sure that you are not part of a group that either talks about or plans to purchase or make explosives. Talking about making or buying explosives is a really quick way to get your group on the Fed's radar. You gotta remember, everything that you are saying is picked up by your phone. It gets put into an algorithm. And if it's not getting picked up by your phone, then it's getting picked up by somebody else's phone. Rule number 2, you wanna make sure that you are not part of a group that is either talking about or planning buying parts that will convert their weapons into fully automatic weapons. Again, this. Rule number 3, you want to make sure that your group is not talking about or planning a violent overthrow of the government. Again, quick way to grab attention of the feds. Rule number 4, don't allow really extreme people in your group. Now I know, us conservative preppers are already considered extremists, but that guy with the swastika on his neck, probably not a good guy to have in your group. Or that sovereign citizen that says he's going to shoot it out with the police rather than pay a ticket for driving without a driver's license, probably another person, not good for your group. Simply put, people that are to the far extremes, either left or to the right, they draw the attention of the federal government. So if you have people like that in your group probably won't even make it to a grid down situation. And folks, I do realize that there are a handful of instances where feds have infiltrated some kind of a group and then putting people up to do stuff just so they can bust them, but that is not the norm. That is the exception, not the norm. The norm is that there are not enough feds to plant an undercover guy in every type of group that's out here in the United States. The norm is that your group has to do something to catch the attention of the feds before they want to put an undercover guy in your group. And folks, I have worked in government for 20 years, so I know what gets the government's attention and what doesn't. And doing things like talking about explosives, or converting your firearms into fully automatic, or violently overthrowing the government, or highly illegal, dangerous things is what draws their attention that will end up with somebody glowing in your group. You just have to remember that besides worrying about prepper groups, the feds also have to worry about outlaw motorcycle gangs, street gangs that are running huge amounts of narcotics, racist organizations, whether they're black or white, and then also far left and also far right groups that are wanting to violently overthrow the government. So the important thing to remember is that if you belong to a fairly mundane group, chances are you're not going to attract the attention of the feds. Now let's get on with this. Rule number 5, no hotheads in your group, because people that are hotheads, they have a tendency to spout off, blow up, and either take actions that weren't appropriate for that time or say things that can really inflame the situation. And hotheads have a tendency, if they're associated with you, hotheads have a tendency to get themselves in trouble and then also end up getting you in a hot spot yourself. Rule number 6, don't have people in your group that make poor life decisions. People that make a lot of poor decisions are always struggling. They're usually out of money, or they're usually in some kind of legal hot water or something like that. And then if you are associated with them, usually their troubles affect you and the group also. And just the simple fact is that if they are having problems in their own life, they are probably not able to focus on advancing their preparedness. Therefore, they are being a weak member of your group. Number 7, you don't want any half-hearted people in your group. Half-hearted people that don't take things seriously, that don't meet the goals that the group sets. They will drag your group down. So if they're not taking it seriously, if they're not trying to reach the goals that you set as a prepper group, they need to go. And by the way, if you are watching this video on YouTube, you should go over to Rumble and watch my channel there. A lot of us YouTube preppers are going over to Rumble because Rumble does not censor us like YouTube does. So to find my channel, go over to drug users in your group. Now, I'm not talking about somebody that smokes a little bit of marijuana here and there. I am talking about people that are using things like heroin or meth or really strong narcotic painkillers. More times than not, people like that are going to end up stealing from you. They're not going to have the money to continue their prepping. And then if SHTF happens and they can't get those drugs anymore, they're probably going to pop off. Number 9, you do not want any dishonest people in your group. We all know people that lie and lie and lie. And the simple fact is that if it is after SHTF, you need to be able to rely on the rest of your prepper group. You need to know that if they tell you something, that it is true. Rule number 10, you do not want any pink or purple-haired screaming liberals in your group. Now, I'm not talking about somebody that's maybe just not as conservative as you. I'm talking about the purple-haired screaming liberal that has a Che Guevara t-shirt on and they're spouting off the Communist Manifesto. The reality is that in a post-collapse situation, old-fashioned conservative values will probably be needed to survive. I'm talking about both a mom and a dad raising a child, the father being a manly role model, the mother being a female role model, hard work ethic, etc. Simply put, extreme liberals do not agree with those values, and that will put your group at risk. And here's a bonus one for you, number 11. The people that's in your group should be people that you have known for a really long time and you trust. These should be people that you have been to their house, you have seen their wife, you have seen their children, you have maybe even visited them at their job. Those are going to be the type of people that you know you can trust. So what are some hard and fast rules for prepper groups that I may have missed? Comment down below with your suggestions. And in a post-collapse situation, something like a simple cut can become infected.
Want to do an advertisement? So there we go. Hit those lights. So that was So that video was more about the kind of the trusted inner circle that and this group is open to all, so you guys are welcome to come. Anybody can come and go. It don't have to be a member. There's no membership. We're just simply a group of people who are interested in preparedness, and we talk about these things. But if you decide to get a little more disciplined, you decide to get a little more concentrated, and you have a group of trusted friends and people, those are the kinds of things to look out: your drug users, the liars, the untrustworthy people. So, when you're dealing with groups, you're inevitably going to have some conflicts. These are some of my favorite resources for dealing with conflicts. You got your book, Crucial Conversations, The Peacemaker, Boundaries, and Creating a Life Together. Just really good, solid books as well. I've again included a video on active listening. So active listening enables you to better deal with conflict with someone else. So, another thing you want to consider when you're dealing with community is to be a survival MacGyver, which is basically doing it yourself as much as possible. When you can do a lot of things like that, when you know how to make your ammo, when you know how to grow your own food, when you know how to procure water, you're not afraid to have more mouths to feed because you can make more stuff. It's also really, really good if you have a fire or flood, or there's someone breaks in and steals your stuff, or you have to leave something behind, whatever. And then the other thing you can do if you know what you're doing on your own is you can do more for bartering. It also saves money. It also just adds a lot of comfort, and it adds a lot of peace. When I know that if tomorrow the grocery store stops shipping, I'm not worried because I know what I must do. The things you want to study for that would be like your bushcraft, which even if you're not bushcraft, people think about running off to the woods, but even if you're not running off to the woods, you're sitting on your homestead. There's materials all around you that if you know how to use them, you can do great things with. So bushcraft, permaculture is really nice because permaculture is working smarter and not harder with your garden, and it tends to set up self-replicating systems that just become easier and easier. Junkyard tinkering, so there's a lot of cool resources in a junkyard that if you know how to use, you can do that. This last weekend I did a presentation called Beginning Preparedness, in which I discuss a lot of these things and which I link to a lot of resources. So check out this link and it'll get you going to a bigger presentation of which I discuss all these sorts of things. And then I have an emergency web server that I have set up. If the internet goes down and we still have power, it is possible that my little web server would still work. And the way that is it could be that the internet's higher services like your DNS and your SSL and all those high level stuff could be taken down. That's pretty vulnerable, but the base IP layer was built to withstand nuclear attack, so it can perhaps still work. It didn't cost me anything to set up, and it won't cost you anything to join. It's just a possibility. So if you think you might be interested in that, I can certainly create an account for you on my server, and what you would do is write down on a piece of paper the email, or the address rather, the IP address, and your username and your password. The reason you do it on paper is because if you leave it in your email and you can't get to your email, you're lost. So if you'll give me your email, I will inform you anytime my IP address changes. And it rarely changes. I did have one change this year, but that's because I moved the modem from another, spot. So that was my fault for changing. It otherwise rarely changes. Now this server is not guaranteed to be online either before or after the crisis. If you want to see it before the crisis, I'll be glad to boot it up for you. But it's not guaranteed to be online because it's on this laptop right here, and if this laptop is not plugged into the internet, or if I'm away from the computer, or I'm not, so anyway, it's not guaranteed to be online before or after. I can't guarantee that we'll be able to get to it, but it's worth a shot. It's free, so it's a great way. I've set up a community bulletin board that we can share files and give discussions and communicate, even if the internet's down. So here's some of my favorite, this is a great book, and then there's a bunch of videos here on YouTube that you can check out in your spare time about doing preparedness groups and how to find some of the dangers people look out for. So how do you do it? What are some of your ways that you like to build community? You started this group, Bev. Tell us some of your ways to build community.
You have to have the attitude for it to begin with. It has to be part of your life. Make it a habit. Make it just your own personal family, which start gathering and knowledge you will learn
Yep.
after you build the foundation. But with you guys, you go farther than we ever been able to do, because we're just the foundation type thing. So as far as we have gotten into it, and that people start, we plant the seed.
Yeah.
And so therefore you guys have the resources to extend it where we cannot, and that's why I'm just thrilled that it's still hanging out, because it's so important here. And as far as the community goes, it has to stay. People have to still they still have to hear the word, even though they don't prepare or don't think they need to, but they're going to know the basics, can save their lives in the end if they're smart and use a lot of common sense. That's all it is, a lot of common sense.
Now, don't undersell yourself, because you are a great gardener. I was
Oh,
really
yeah.
impressed by the work
Oh
you
yeah,
did
we
with
had
that. Yeah, it looked
Yeah.
so good. And you
and
guys
we
were
had a
doing some
good garden until summertime burned it up.
things. Yeah.
It was
Well.
looking really nice. Yeah, I
Yeah,
really.
it's in Oregon.
No, it's not.
Different climate for sure.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
at least we'll have a chance to improve that.
All right.
But anyway,
Yeah,
no,
excellent.
Florida's kind of hard.
Yeah.
Have a garden. Yeah, no, any skills you have, just don't be afraid to learn. Knowledge is power.
Right.
And don't be afraid if you have an idea, like when people get with you guys, and they want to know more about something, and you may be able to get the information and have a whole new project.
Yeah.
The airbait will enjoy it. It's just people got to not be afraid to express themselves, and no opinion is a bad idea.
Yeah. Sounds good.